Hello, welcome to my studio. Please visit my website to see new art demonstrations, art instruction books and tutorials, and of course art. This is a 36 by 48 inch canvas. This painting will consist of two pictures that I am about to combine into one painting. I usually sketch outdoors, so I bring my sketches back home and rely on them as my color studies, because the images that I get with my computer don't give me the information that I need to create a realistic color. I make a freehand drawing using the charcoal stick. This is a wine charcoal, not a compressed one. It erases very easily and it doesn't leave any residue, which is very good for painting. In landscape painting, I always start from the horizon line because it divides the space between the land and the sky, and then I either place other elements on top of the horizon line or the bottom. If you paint a landscape that has the mountains, you put the horizon line as well and you place the mountains on top of that. I am aware of the linear perspective, so I'm marking major lines for the waves that I see. Basically, all those waves converge in one point somewhere. So ideally, I need to make sure that I start from one point and all those lines are gonna converge in there. That's how you create the sense of perspective. When I begin painting the sky, I pre-mix my colors. If I paint large, I have to pre-mix colors so they're nice and even throughout my painting. But I start mapping out the lightest areas first. And then as I move away from the sun, I put darker color that I see in my picture. I pre-mix my colors on a palette using the palette knife. I mix my colors in batches, so I have enough to paint for a day. So I need to dull it with some gray and a little bit of white. So I continue mixing and I continue checking it against my picture. I paint on a handmade and hand-stretched canvas. I also paint with professional oil paints and don't use any paint that goes below number 2 light fast rating. This ensures that my work is gonna last for a very long time. Of course, it is a lot more expensive, so if you just start out, you might not need to buy light fast oil paints or hand stretch your canvases. But just be aware of the fact that cheap stuff falls apart a lot quicker. It might even happen during your lifetime. I paint my first layer with the bristle brush, which is very rough, but it allows me to cover large areas quite quickly. Right now, I'm just mapping out the basic warms and cools, lights and darks. So the clouds tend to be cooler, although they have some of the light reflected in them. I don't use any medium in my first step. I follow the fat over the lean rule, so I would be using more oil as I progress with my painting. As of now, it's basically paint straight from the tube, and a little bit of Gamsol is added to my color mixes just to make it flow a little bit more and keep it somewhat thin and transparent. And I attach the string to part of my easel over here on the right side. So it lines up with my horizon line, and then I use it as a very long ruler to figure out the correct placement of the linear lines. When my first layer dries, I check my linear perspective once again, because it feels like I'm a little bit off when I painted it for the first time. So what I do, I put the string and line it up with my horizon line. It should line up all the way through. And then, because it converges in one point, what I do, I just check for the correctness of the lines. It looks like I'm off over here by a lot. So I will be coming back to my string as I paint water, and I will line it up again. In my second sitting, I want to make sure that my horizon line is straight. So what I do, I pre-mix the color for the lower part of the sky, and I also pre-mix the color for the horizon line. I know that eventually I'm going to layer more color, layer glazes over here to create the glow. So I don't really worry about a specific color over here, which is not the same as everywhere else. So for now, I just make sure that my line is straight, painting it basically one color on the lower part of the horizon line, and then alternating between colors, painting this part of the sky. And after that, I'm going to take yet another brush and tap the lines over here to make sure that the horizon line is very nice and smooth and doesn't come forward because of the harsh line. And this is very important. You don't want to make this, the horizon line looking very rough. It needs to be nice and soft. So that would be my next step. And for the colors, I used separate brushes. So for instance, for the horizon line, I used one brush, and for the sky, I used another one to make sure that colors don't mix up together. So once I've applied the color, I use just a little bit of oil. Usually I use linseed oil or walnut oil. So I take just a tiny bit of it. I go through my line very carefully, smoothing out the line. Sometimes I have to drag the paint down, or in reverse. Sometimes I have to move it up just a little bit. It depends on my initial line that I've created. But most of the time it's sort of like this, moving my brush very gently across the line, and wiping it off once in a while using the paper towel. So my color of the ocean doesn't get into my color of the sky. Colors that you use from the tube have the highest chroma. Red would be a pure red, and it has the highest chroma. But not everything that you paint usually has the high chroma or high intensity. So to lower the color intensity in my painting, I use a little bit of gray mixed into the color. For instance, if I take the pure yellow and I don't see that pure yellow in my painting, I would mix a little bit of warm gray into it, and this way I create softer, nicer yellow that is more true to nature, as opposed to using the color right from the tube. Most of the time you have to lower the chroma somehow. Sometimes artists use the complement colors to knock down the brightness of the paint, but I find that just adding a tiny bit of gray, that's all that I need to create the softer and less bright color. You can see that I have somewhat uneven patches of color, for instance over here. So the transitions are not that even so far. I don't worry about it for now, because before I'm done for the day, I'll take my big soft brush and just brush over some of the colors to make nice and soft transitions between them. Gray clouds have a lot of color in them, so I pre-mix my basic gray that consists of a little bit of black, white, and some red, and a little bit of yellow, like cadmium yellow. So it gives me a basic mix that I put in for the clouds. But you really need to go out and study the sky, because this gray is very complex, and it usually reflects lots of colors that I see in the sky. For instance, over here, because it's the sunset, there are a lot of orangey grays in there, as well as yellowish grays. So despite the fact that I have my basic gray mix, I also mix some color that I see into it. And the closer I get to the light source, the lighter my clouds are going to become, and they're going to have more yellow and orange in them, as opposed to the clouds being further away from the sun. I don't paint all over the place, rather I focus on one area and then change my paint and continue painting, as opposed to painting all over the place. This way I can control my values and colors, because it's easier to mix color of the right value right next to the one that I've already applied. Otherwise it just gets too difficult to manage. If I want the edges to be nice and soft, I can make them soft as I keep applying paint, as opposed to painting and then fixing the edge. So it just depends. My rule of tiling, applying paint one next to the other, stays the same throughout my painting process. And it doesn't really matter what technique I'm using, I'm following this one basic rule. I start softening the sky from the lightest area that I have. I basically brush over the paint. I want to keep my sky very nice and soft, so this step actually takes a while. This way I'm eliminating all the hard edges I might have. And I'm also blending the color in the sky. I don't use heavy pressure. I gently glide the brush over the paint. paint different areas that have a completely different color, for instance, you know, the clouds that are white and the sky that is blue, I alternate between the two brushes. One is reserved for the clouds and another one is reserved for the sky. So I switch between them and I paint simultaneously so I can create a nice soft edge between the colors if I need to. And I don't have to clean up one brush every single time to switch my color, because no matter how hard I try to clean it up, the color, you know, the wrong color still gets onto my brush. So a lot of times I have 3, 4, 5 brushes and I alternate between them. As I, you know, continue painting, I like to one color show through the next one, so I don't really repaint every single area. I just keep adding a little bit of color here and there to create the variety in the sky that I see. You know, nature doesn't repeat itself, so there is no single parallel line running across, or there are no repetitive shapes. The same is true about, you know, the color. I think it's just as varied as the expanse of the sky, so I keep adding color, but I have no goal of repainting the entire area unless I'm totally off. I just wanna get the variety of the color that I see. And as I paint, I keep watching my values, you know, going from light to dark. So it's not just the color itself, it's also the value that I'm getting. I know that it's the vault of the sky, so it's light and then it gets darker because the sky goes like so. So I tend to use darker values at the top of the sky to show that. I often step back and just look at my painting from the distance. It's very important no matter the size of the painting, and it's super important when you paint large, because you have to see it from the distance to check your values and colors, so you don't lock yourself into one area, make it beautiful, and then everything else doesn't quite work. You want everything to look good. And the color is becoming more complex because I let one color show through another. I'm creating the depth that I need by adding and sometimes subtracting. As I paint the ocean, I have several influences, and I look at a number of artists that paint a particular subject. My favorite artists include the 19th century Russian artist Ayvazovsky. He painted huge landscapes, seascapes. He is one of the most strongest influences on my art. I also like to look at Turner, the British artist who was the beginner of the modern art, so to speak. And also you can look at a number of contemporary artists. One of them is Edward Minow. You know, he paints the ocean, and his technique and the ability to depict it is superb. So as I have my basics done, I just want to break up this wave and create details in it, and also paint the foam what I'm doing here, I am breaking up this whole area into smaller sections because it curves like this. It can't really have a single line. Basically, it breaks down into many smaller waves inside the big one, and it takes time to figure it out, studying the waves and studying the paintings of famous artists. At this step, I want to create the variety. Also, I know that I will be glazing this area to push it back because it needs to be on the inside of the wave. So right now I'm just forming the overall structure. And also I know that I need to paint the foam a lot thicker over here. And some of it is gonna catch more light and needs to be lighter, and other parts need to be a little bit darker. If I want to make it stand out more, I could use blobs of paint to create the foam, and it gives me a different kind of texture. I could also use the paper towel to do that, but at this point I have to build thicker area in the crashing wave, and everything else needs to be smooth. Glazing means a very thin application of paint. So I've diluted a little bit of the warmer yellow paint with my medium, and now I'm applying it over the brightest part of the sky to give it a glow. I want it to be very thin and almost not seen. I spread it around and make sure it's nice and even and it feels like a glow. The clouds over here right above the sun also have this yellowish glow, and again I just use a little bit of paint and then blend it. The previous layer must be dry completely, so when I move my paint around, I don't disturb the layers that I've painted before. So glazing means a very thin application of paint. I also don't want to overdo the yellow part because it would become too strong and overpowering. So I have to step back once in a while to look at it from the distance. Scumbling is a technique of applying lighter paint over the dark one. So like over here I have the blue sky, and then I want to add part of the cloud over the sky to keep it nice and fluffy. I accept commissions on a rolling basis. Please visit my website to see the price range and the available sizes. Thank you. Thanks for watching my video. Please visit my website to see new demonstrations and artwork. Thanks again. Bye-bye.